Good morning, and I'd like to welcome you to our Friday Anchored in the Word morning reflection. And I hope that you've had a great week, and I hope that our Missions Month has been a tremendous encouragement to you. And our Missions Month is a wonderful time for us to learn about what's going on in the world. It's an opportunity for us to focus in on the needs and the part that we need to play in that. And it's also an opportunity for us to just be an encouragement to our missionaries. And I'm thankful for all the missionaries that the Lord has brought to be with us, those that we have partnered with already, those who potentially we could partner with in the future as the Lord leads. And so I hope that as we're looking at these topics related to missions in our Anchored in the Word studies, that those are also an encouragement to you as well. The passage that we've been in is 1 Peter chapter 2, and we're looking at verses 1 through 12. Again, we started reading in verse number 6 just to kind of shorten the section that we're reading. Here's what it says. Behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that believeth on him shall not be confounded. Unto you therefore which believe he is precious. But unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner, and a stone of stumbling, and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient. Whereunto also they were appointed. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, which in times past were not a people, but are now the people of God, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Dearly beloved, I beseech you, as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul, having your conversation honest among the Gentiles, that whereas they speak against you as evildoers, they may, by your good works, which they shall behold, glorify God in the day of visitation. Now, the question is, how does this topic that we've been talking about, the darkness that we were once in, the darkness of the world around us, the light that we have experienced by God's grace as he opens our eyes to the glories of Christ, the fact that we function as a local church in the world a very particular way, and the vibrancy of God's work through the church when it is healthy, how God works in this dark world through the church. Why does that matter, and how does that relate to missions? Well, let me give you some final thoughts that I think will be helpful to you as you think about it. What it does is it tells us that we have to be gripped by the state of the world around us. I think one of the reasons that we as Christians are sometimes complacent about evangelism and complacent about discipleship and complacent about church planting and complacent about missions is because we really, while we theologically believe that the world is a dark place, and if you ask people questions about their view of humanity, they would give you the right biblical answers, we're not gripped by the state of the world around us. It's not something we think about a lot. It's not something that we are concerned about deeply. And so these verses show us that we've got to be gripped by the state of the world. Secondly, we need to be gripped by the greatness of the mercies of God. I remember when I was in seminary, one of my professors made some comment to the effect, and it's kind of a summary, but he basically said, if you want people to get excited about missions and burdened for missions, you need to proclaim the greatness of Christ. You need to proclaim the greatness of the gospel and the glories of our Lord. And people who love God and people who are overwhelmed by what God has saved them from and to, people who are really gripped by the grace of God, these are the people that are going to be driven and motivated to be involved in the work of reaching the nations. Thirdly, we've got to be gripped by the great privilege we enjoy as God's people. As we go back over the text that we looked at this week and we think about the individual things that are stated about the church's position and the function that we're supposed to have, it's something that reminds us that we are a privileged people. We are the recipients of immense grace. And so we need to be gripped by that. We need to recognize that the minds that God gave us, he gave them to us for a reason. The physical strength, the seasons of life that we're in, he gave those things to us for a reason. He put us in this world at this time, saved us at the time that he did, so that he could use us to reach into the lives of people. We've got to be gripped by the privilege we enjoy as his people. And we must purpose to live as a body with conviction. one of the reasons that the church has lost its influence is because the church has lost its conviction. The church is not standing firmly on what the Bible teaches, and sometimes the church argues about things that are almost irrelevant, or they pale in comparison to the fundamental doctrines of the faith and the heart of the gospel. And so we have to function as a church that lives based upon conviction. The last thing I'm going to mention here is that we've got a purpose to engage in planting churches where the witness is gone or where the witness has become diminished. And all it takes is one or two generations, and a place that once had a strong gospel witness can have a very diminished and a very small, almost insignificant gospel witness. I would venture to say that nearly every part of the world that we send missionaries to is a place that's had the gospel for many, many generations. There's a history of gospel preaching churches in that culture at some point over the last 2,000 years. The question is, why do they need these missionaries to go back to these places? Why do countries like the United Kingdom, or why do countries like Germany or France or Italy, or look at the Middle East, why do these regions, Turkey, Syria, why do these places need gospel witnesses? Because once they had them, it's because the witness of the church has been diminished. Churches have died and generations have turned over. And sometimes Christians have been persecuted to such an extent that they've had to flee areas. Or an entire generation of Christians has been primarily killed in a particular region because of the persecution that they faced. There is always a need in every generation for churches to be planted, and churches that are established to be reawakened and strengthened and revived and reformed, if you want to put it in those terms, because the church has lost its distinctiveness. And so when we think about all the things that we've talked about, being gripped by the state of the world, being gripped by the greatness of God, gripped by the privilege that we have, living as a distinct body with conviction, may God help us as a church and as individuals who are part of the church to engage in church planting where the witness has been diminished. Well, I hope that you'll join us this Sunday as we have some missionaries with us, and it's going to be a great service. Sunday school, we're going to have missions presentations. Sunday morning, we'll have a sermon that's focused on missions, and then Sunday night, we'll have a missionary who'll be preaching and be with us. And so I hope that you'll join us, and that these weeks that we're having a missions emphasis have been and will continue to be a great encouragement to you. Have a blessed rest of your weekend, and Lord willing, we'll meet again on Monday. Bye now.